Happy Prime Day, right? Welcome to Be the Market Expert. And guys, I'm just gonna throw this out here real quick. If you need some real estate stuff, I'm not saying go out and spend a bunch of stupid money, but yet if you do need stuff, like probably go look at Amazon. I think Amazon, Walmart, and Costco are all having big sales right now, right? And so even when I just went in here and I was just like real estate, lock boxes, right, for $10 right now. It started off at 11.99, so it's not like it's a huge savings, but like if you need something real estate related, booties, right? We got books in here. I don't know what these t-shirts have to do with real estate. If you want to travel back to the 1980s and you want a flyer holders, they look like they're $1 off right now. I don't know if that's a huge savings either. But guys, like I would just go here and look, like if you need anything for your business, again, let's lead with revenue and let's not go spend stupid money for fun. But the stuff is available right now. Let's fast forward and let's look at this. Here's an article that realtor.com is the one that contributed this, and it says Colorado, and you can see 59.5% of homeowners in Colorado will face hidden home equity tax if they sell. All right. Here's the conversation that we've been looking at, right? And the conversation that we've been having, and it's this. It's unless you bought within like the last 3 to 4 years, you have equity in your home. And that's why all these headlines of you're losing money and homes underwater and all this is just such garbage to where this rolls out. Realtor.com goes through and they did some research and check this out. It says Colorado homeowners have watched their property soar in value over the last 2 decades. I would say even more than that, but let's just play here. And it says that appreciation could come with a serious tax consequence. A federal rule that hasn't changed since 1997 is creating a hidden home equity tax for nearly 6 out of 10 Colorado homeowners. All right, cool. Let's talk about being the fiduciary. All right. There are going to be times where it makes sense for you to tell your clients, you probably shouldn't sell your house. And I get it, right? When we're thinking about this, but you are the fiduciary, you are the real estate economist of choice. And here's the deal, as we're looking at this thing, you have homeowners with serious home equity. And it says, according to the National Association of Realtors, NAR, 59.5% of homeowners in Colorado have exceeded their $250,000 in capital gain exclusions for individuals, and another 18.2% are over their $500,000 cap for married couples filing jointly. All right, so it goes through and it says this. It says the capital gains exemption was designed to allow homeowners to keep profits on sales of their primary residence for singles of 250K, 500 joint filers. And it says over that time, home values nationwide have increased more than 260%. And so where we're going through, it says if the caps kept up, they would now be over $660,000 and $1.32 million respectively in Colorado. That's what they're saying that they would actually need to be at this point to be able to protect all of your money. So I think as we're going through and we're thinking about this, here we are. Oh, let's see, we can shrink this a little bit. It says homeowners are over the exclusion limits. Here we are in Colorado, guys. You have made the list. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but as we're going through as the real estate economist of choice, we need to be able to understand that there's other loan products that allow our clients to maybe tap equity to go maybe purchase another home, right? To where they're able to pull that equity, they're not selling it, they hold on to that asset. And I get that this just goes through and this just perpetuates the cycle of affordability issues that we have in Colorado as well as nationwide because we're not releasing inventory back out into the public. And yet we're here to be a fiduciary. We're here to help our clients. And it might make more sense for our clients maybe to turn it into a rental, maybe hold on to it for a different reason. And we're looking at this thing and where can we go get bridge loans? Where can we go tap this equity to be doing other things? And we are one of the highest states here, right? Like when we start hitting this pink color, pink into purple, right? We know that we have huge equity, huge amount of equity. And with our price point being where it is, right? We understand that we're unequally impacted as far as everything else goes in the nation, right? We have some of the highest home prices, which means that when we're looking to buy a house and we look at the interest rates, that it gives an affordability issue. And now we're talking about if our clients were to sell, they're also going to get penalized because of the appreciation in their homes. And so as we're going through, guys, this actually might be a touch point, right? Where we're looking at this and we are adopting some orphan clients. I understand that, we have some newer agents on this call. And so when we're going through and we're thinking about these orphaned clients, these clients that their real estate agents forgot about them and they forgot who their real estate agents are, it's up to you to now become their real estate agent. And so as you're going through and you are doing some of these equity analysis for your people in your ecosystems, to where we're going through and we're reaching out and we're just saying, hey, just want you to know that that largest financial decision that you made in your life, and when you purchased that home for, $300,000 20 years ago, that home is now worth $800,000, and that is awesome. And I understand that you're not going to maybe be looking at this time to tap that equity, and all you're doing is seeing the tax burdens of that home. But with that being said, wanted to let you know that when you do go to sell your home, you're probably over that tax exemption number, and reach out to me if you want to know some of the solutions that I have, which is going to require you to actually go do some homework, right? Like you're going to be wanting to partner with some of your lender partners and figure out what is the products they have available. But guys, this is what makes us the real estate economists of choice. We talk about this. We have left the speed-based market where it's just go in, mention your real estate agent, people raise their hands, says I'm actually looking to buy because interest rates are super low right now and money's free. And now we're into that skills-based market where we need to be the most educated people. And I'm not talking about going to as many CE classes as possible and leveling up and, how to use CTM and how to use RE Colorado and all these other different things, or, a bunch of solar, unless you're going to implement that at a high level into your business. But what I mean is, how do I help the day-to-day consumer? How do I help the people that have been living in their home for the amount of time that have astronomical amounts of equity in their home? And while they may not be thinking about selling, that there are things that they can do to actually increase their wealth. What should I be doing to figure out how to help the first time home buyer, the first time home seller, right? This is how we need to be leveling up and figuring out what our services are, to be getting in front of people, to be that fiduciary, not the functionary. When we kind of shift, guys, and we start talking about the national landscape of things, and what's interesting is this article from Inman is this job loss fear, mortgage rates weigh on housing sentiment. All right. I just like the graphs. All right. And the graphs aren't super awesome, but I think it illustrates a point. So let's just scroll down. Here's this Fannie Mae survey echoes polls by the University of Michigan and the Conference Board that found uncertainty over the Trump administration tariff policies and weighing. Okay, cool. Let's not get political with this, but I feel like any and every article that we ever read, like this one sentence where they're like, because of the tariff policies by the Trump administration. Okay, cool. Let's fast forward. Let's get through this. Let's look at this first one. So it says consumer housing sentiment. Now, if we were to kind of scroll and enlarge this as much as I think that I can for it not to get weird on us. But here we are, and here's 2019, right? Where we're looking through. In 2019, it was at a low into 2020, right? That's what we're looking into. And then it's kind of just bounced around from then. But even when at the height of the pandemic, when interest rates were super low, we didn't have a surge in housing sentiment. And obviously, with the cost of money being where the cost of money is, it's kind of teetered back and forth. And I get it. When we're kind of looking through and we're talking about interest rates and everything else that is happening, plus tariffs and the cost of everything, this is what's causing these numbers to fluctuate back and forth. But let's go a little bit further. Here's the respondents, and it's saying, is now a great time to buy? All right, cool. So we got the blue line. The blue line is great time to buy. Red line, bad time. And then here's just your net, right? We got this net number, which we're looking at. So here we are. It's a 71%. So it's kind of lowered month over month. It's kind of declined a little bit. And is now a good time to buy? 71% of people said no, now is a bad time to buy. And then it says 28% says now is a good time to buy. So it says we have a delta of 43%. There's a 43% gap where people are saying, no, 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 no. It's actually a worse time to buy than it is a good time to buy. All right, so we're looking at that. Well, let's fast forward. Is now a good time to sell? Well, this is where it gets interesting because now it's saying that 60% of people are actually saying now's a good time to sell. 39% of people are saying now's a bad time to buy. And then net good, 21%. So we're in a positive. Well, this is where it gets weird. So we're looking at this thing and we're saying, okay, these people are saying it's a bad time to buy, but it's a great time to sell. Well, then who's buying? Right? The same people that are just like, oh no, I wouldn't go buy right now. Or also the same people are like, it's a great time for you to go sell your house. Well, then who are the buyers? Right? I think this is where it gets a little bit weird. So we want to go through and says respondents who say home prices will in the next 12 months, blue is go up, red is go down, gray is stay the same, and then your black line still your net will go up. So 45% people said the home prices are going to go down. 33 or will go up, I'm sorry. 33% said they're going to go down. Or they'll stay the same. And then your go down is your 22%. Sorry, there was way too many numbers here for me to keep track of there. Way too many colors. Where this gets interesting is it's saying, yeah, like a lot of people think that prices are going to go up, they're going to stay the same. And then there's a smaller majority that say, well, they're going to go down. So if we're looking at this and we're saying that prices are going to go up, but they're saying now's not a good time to buy, how's that true? You're telling me that home prices are going to go up here in the future, but now's not the good time to buy a house? Well, why is that? Well, then we just kind of fast forward and we look at mortgage rates. So it says blue, mortgage rates are going to go down. Red, mortgage rates are going to go up. Gray, they're going to stay the same. And here's our net. Well, if we look at this, our gray is right here. They say they're going to stay the same. Red says they're going to go up. 25% says they're going to go down. Now my head really hurts. All right. So we've looked at 4 graphs. Is now a good time to buy? Is now a good time to sell? Our price is going to go up. Our mortgage rate's going to go down. The same people that were surveyed that says now's not a good time to buy, but it's probably a good time to sell, says that home prices are going to go up and mortgage rates are either going to stay the same or they're also going to go up. Then why isn't now the good time? And this is the issue, guys. This is the issue that we have with the media. And we're going through, and your people are consuming information. I read somewhere today that the average person picks up their phone 150 times per day. And I'm like, oh my God, is that like, I almost want to count how many times I pick up my phone. And guess what? Self-reflection time. Hi, my name is Charles. And I know most of the time when I'm picking up my phone, it's not for constructive purposes. It's to go through and to look to see how many emails and what new emails have come through, what's going on Instagram, what's going on Facebook. And yes, it could be for business purposes, but let's be real. It's for entertainment, right? It's for a pause in my day to just have a little bit of a dopamine hit. And if we all are being honest, guys, that's all of us. And that's your consumers. So your consumers are getting on Instagram, they're getting on Facebook, they're getting on TikTok, they're getting on YouTube. They are looking at information. And the information that they're getting fed right now is it's not a good time to buy. It might be an okay time to sell. Home prices are probably going to go up in the future, and interest rates are also going to go up. This makes zero to no sense to me. I don't understand how we can go through and get that much conflicting data in the same survey. This is one survey that went out, and people are like, don't go buy, maybe go sell. Interest rates are going to go up, and home prices are going to go up. Then why wouldn't I buy now? If you're telling me that interest rates are going to go higher and home prices are going to go higher, so it means the cost of housing is going to go up in the future, why wouldn't I buy today? Lock in my interest rate. The only hedge against inflation that we have for a 30-year product is housing. And you're telling me that that purchase is going to go up in value, but I shouldn't go buy it today, even though the cost to buy that is going to also go up? That's crazy, guys. And this is why, as the real estate economist of choice, we need to be educated. We need to be having these conversations. What would it look like to go onto social media and to start creating some of this content and being like, hey, this is the deal? Then what do we do with that content from social media? We put it into a newsletter and we fire it off. Here's what's interesting. I don't know if you guys follow Lab Coat Agents. Lab Coat Agents is a Facebook group, and it's ran by a guy from EXP and a guy from KW, which is kind of interesting. They both used to be at the same brokerage. And one of the things that this guy does that runs from the EXP side of things, Tristan Amendola, is that he actually goes through and he sends out these newsletters, and the newsletters, they either link back to a YouTube video or they link back to a Facebook post, which I actually think is kind of interesting. Like, it's a really short blurb, and then you click on the link to go learn more, and it takes you back to his post that he actually created in his Facebook group. And so I would challenge you guys to kind of look at this. Like, if you're thinking like, hey, I want to start creating some social media content to be the real estate economist of choice, because I know that people pick this thing up 150 times a day and they might as well be seeing me instead of the news cycles that are out there. Guys, these are the kind of things that I would do, because they're obviously getting some bad information, so much so to where I don't even understand how they're coming up with these notions. But then I go through and let's just talk about our untapped equity. All right. So let's go back and have more of an equity conversation. There was this saying that hopefully no one got caught telling their consumers, which was date the rate, marry the house. Hopefully none of you have said this. And if you've heard it, hopefully you knew that this was dangerous. And we actually saw how dangerous this was over the last couple of years. And it's proving more so this year over the last couple of months. And so this is kind of interesting. It says, how far would mortgage rates have to drop for the refis to start to happen and for your consumers to be able to start recouping some of the money, is what it says, in the money. It says, if the average 30-year fixed rate fell below 5 to 5.5%. So that's what we're looking for. And that's where a lot of economists believe this is where we're going to land. All right. So just full transparency, guys, like a lot of economists believe that once everything gets flat and we're living in a normal market, we're going to be around 5.5%. We're not going to see the fours. We're definitely not going to see the threes again. Like, we're going to live in 5.5. And what's unfortunate about that is I think that's where a lot of our consumers are thinking that, well, I'm just waiting for that to happen, then I'm going to go buy. But what we do understand is this: home prices start going down as interest rates are going up. And that's kind of where we are right now, because more inventory is hitting the market and we're seeing it stick a little bit more. So we're in what would be considered like a buyer's market. But as soon as interest rates start going down, home prices start going up, because now we have less of an affordability issue. But what that does is that creates more home price values. And since money's cheaper, we have more people that are able to afford the home. So we start having these bidding issues that we had again. Now, they're not going to look like 2020, 2021 ever again, but yet we will start to see some fluctuation in prices. So we scroll down and we look at this thing, and it says, heading into this, here we go. So it says the number of mortgage borrowers with a refinance could lower their interest rate by at least 75 basis points, or 0.75 percentage points. And we do it this way. We talk about points because you start talking about percentages. That's where people start conflicting interest rate with percentages. So it says if we were to go back in 2020, September 2021, 25.2 million borrowers were in the money for refis when the average 30-year fixed rate went down to 2.8. So that's saying like people went out and they refied 2.8%. It happened, and people went out and refinanced and got their money back out. Now, what would happen, right? It says in 2024, rates, when they went down to 6.7%, we'd had 43 million borrowers that were able to go out and refinance, and refinancing made sense. Now, what they're saying, you can see these numbers are getting smaller and smaller. Now we're seeing 1.3 million borrowers would have the ability to go refinance if they went down to 6.77%. What this is saying, guys, is that with the interest rates going where they are, and when we're looking at this as a whole, what's happening is we have people that are at 7.5 to 8% interest rates. So if they went down to this percentage, we would have the ability to see 1.3 people to go refinance. But guess what? The people that are locked in at your 7%, your 6%, your 5%, like those people won't be able to refinance anymore. This is why this is dangerous, is if you're going through and you're telling someone, go buy the house now, you'll be able to refinance later. Well, that number would have to drop significantly at this point, and we just might not see it. So if we go through, here's where it is. It's a 6.25%, 1.5 million. But let's just go all the way down. We would have to get down to 3%, which we will never see again. Remember, a lot of economists think we're going to land somewhere here, which isn't a bad number. 3.6 million people would be able to actually refinance if we were to get down to this low. But this is truly where you guys are at right now. So if we're going out and we're saying, no, 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 date the rate, marry the house, this are the numbers that we would actually have to see drop down to for more and more people to be able to take advantage of it. And so what this is saying is the vast majority of people that actually have a loan out on their home would be able to refinance at this 14 or at this 3%, 14.3 million homeowners at that point. So we go through and we just look at this thing. It just shows you how much more astronomical, right? It says number of US mortgage borrowers in the money to refinance at various hypothetical 30-year mortgage rate threshold. So we go here 2.5 again. So this is just a different visualization, but at 8%, very small percentage. Again, when we start getting into this 5%, 5.5%, we see more and more people, and obviously 2.5, vast majority would be able to do that. Here's kind of where we are, mortgage seasonally adjusted for mortgage refinance index. We're not going to dive into that too much, but this one I find interesting. Interest rates on outstanding mortgages. All right, cool. 71.3% of US mortgage borrowers have an interest rate under 5%. All right. So 71% of the population that actually holds a mortgage has an interest rate under 5%. And so if we're looking at this, here you go, here's under 6, here's 5 to 6%, or I'm sorry, over 6, 5 to 6%, 4 to 5%, 3 to 4%, under 3%. And this is kind of your visualization of this thing. And here we go, we got 2013, 21, 2023, and here we are. So 71% of your people right now that actually have a mortgage, 71% of them have an interest rate under 5%. And when we talk about the golden handcuffs and we talk about the people that are not selling their home, because if they were to sell their house, they have less purchase power because the cost of money plus the increased in value in these homes, they're not moving unless they're motivated, which is where we are. And this is why, as we're talking about being in a skills-based market, we have to understand that we have to find the motivated. The motivated, the people with the life events that are happening, those are the people that are selling their houses right now. People are not selling their house because they want a different view, which is what we saw in 2021. 2021, we actually saw people going through and saying, I want to live on the other side of the street because interest rates were so low, and we're not seeing that anymore. So knowing this information, this is where we're going through and we're figuring out what people's 1-year plan is, their 3-year plan, their 5-year plan. And on top of that, we figure out like what's their investment strategy? Do they want to go buy an investment property? Do they want a secondary home so they can go Airbnb it? And how can we help? How can we educate them? How can we be the conduit to put them in touch with the right people to help them advance their portfolios? Guys, and this is what's going to set us apart. Knowing this information, knowing that people are not moving for fun, knowing that people in Colorado have so much equity in their home right now that there actually could be bigger tax implications if they were to sell. How can we advise them? Who is in your corner right now? Where are you getting your education to better educate your people? Because if they're landing on Fox News, CNN, YouTube, Twitter, insert whatever here, they're getting bad information. They have equity. They probably have a great interest rate. Now, instead of sitting on that home for the rest of their life and not doing anything with it, how can we impact their bottom line in a positive direction? Here's what's interesting, if we were to look at just employment. So, guys, here's one of the biggest things that we're looking at. When we were talking about interest rates, if you were on Coffee Talk, you heard Dale pop up, and Dale said, I don't think interest rates are going to go down. They're not, at least not for the foreseeable future, because believe it or not, we're winning. And so, guys, the United States, despite all the headlines, guys, this is the real truth about everything. Yes, I get that things are a little bit more expensive, especially housing. You guys are disproportionately affected compared to everything else. When we talk about housing, you guys live in Colorado. We have some of the highest price points. You talk about the cost of money. You couple those things together, people are not buying houses like they were, especially here. But let's look at this. This is employment numbers. Outside of other services, professional and business services, wholesale trade, manufacturing, and a little bit of mining and lodging, every other sector is up, especially government, which is very interesting, right? When we look at all the government cuts and the people that were paid to go walk away from their jobs, we're actually seeing a boom in education right now. And so we're actually seeing a lot of educators actually get back into the space, and that's actually what drove this number up. So when we're talking about interest rates, we have a job loss recession Fed. The Fed was saying inflation, inflation, inflation. Guess what? Inflation's been taken care of. Outside of some other trade issues that we've been having, inflation's been taken care of. Now, what we have is we have a federal, the Fed, the federal bank, that is saying, hey, here's the deal. We're not going to be releasing money out into the public because there's no need, because people have jobs. And that's literally where we are right now. The Fed is saying, and we have Fed presidents like Jerome Powell that says, hey, we don't know what the tariffs are going to cause down the road. But with that being said, we also don't have a immediate need to make the cost of money less expensive because people have jobs. And here we are. How did I lead off the call? We have Prime days, we have Costco days, we have Walmart days. All those are taking out right now, and people are spending money. We're going to see the reports come out in a couple of weeks on how much money people spent on these retailers. And I can promise you guys it's going to be disgusting how much money was spent. But this is where we're at right now. So this is why the Fed's not lowering rates, because they're saying people are spending money. People have money to spend. We don't need to release money out into the world right now, especially with numbers like this. You guys can see at the employment rate, here we are, guys. Even since 2022, we've stayed relatively flat. This is unchanged. People are not losing jobs. We're actually having an increase in jobs, and there's reports out there that I'm even scared to talk about on this call. But there's reports out there that are actually pointing to that more Americans are actually going out and getting jobs right now, even with all the craziness that's happening in our society. And so we can dive into that a little bit later. All employees, residential building construction. Guys, we even have construction. Here's the indicator. This right reason why this one's important is when we talk about our industry specifically, when we talk about the real estate industry, and we start thinking about new builds and resales, and we look into this category. We look into this category because this is your trade labor. These are your roofers. These are your plumbers, your electrician, your piecemeal guys. These are your framers. These are the guys that are going out and they're building houses, and they're not being laid off. Despite all the headlines, right? We saw the images on Fox and on CNN and on YouTube and on Twitter of all these job sites that were completely empty because they can't get workers anymore because they're fearful. Well, here's the deal, guys. The employment rates they're still climbing here. These people are actually going out and getting jobs. And again, this is big to us. And again, this is not a political statement, but we have to understand this. When we have jobs, the Fed is not going to lower rates. And so we will be disproportionately affected in our industry because they're not going to lower rates if everything looks good. Here's the deal. We talk about recessions. And as Americans, We are never going to cheer on a recession. We never, ever, ever want to see people lose jobs, ever. Super un-American. People get hurt, right? People lose jobs. They can't pay for their mortgage. They can't pay for heat. They can't pay for electricity. They can't take care of their families. Like all kinds of bad stuff happens. And we will never cheer for that. And I do want you guys to be well aware of this, though. A recession for our industry is not bad. It's bad for the people that we care about, our fellow Americans, right? That's hurtful. But with that being said, if we start to see people lose jobs and people start getting laid off, and for us to go into a recession, what happens then when these numbers start regressing the other way? What happens is at that point, the Fed starts releasing more money into the environment because while we think about housing cost and people getting access to money and taking that money and buying houses, what also happens is businesses get money. They can expand, they can hire more people, right? And why they can't hire people is because money's restrictive right now. The cost of money is more expensive. And it's by design. The federal government, the federal banking system does not want you to be able to expand and to flourish in a market where they don't want you to because it affects the dollar. And so what happens now is they make it more restrictive. Yes, we get affected in our sector, which is real estate. But what also they're doing is to make sure that people aren't building bigger and bigger businesses. And they're also saying we don't need to put more money into these sectors because people have jobs. We look at this, and here's just your jobless claims, guys. Here we are. Here we are. Like it's going down. Jobless claims are going down. We are seeing more people with jobs, which is a good thing. It's a good thing that the people that we care about, the people that are in our worlds have jobs and they can afford things, necessities, as well as fun things like Amazon Prime Day deals, right? But with this number going down, this is why interest rates aren't going to go down. We are going to be disproportionately affected because of this number right here. I saw this article. This was interesting for many reasons, but it says delisting surged nearly 50% as sellers who can't get their price quit the market in frustration. Now, I only pull this up just because I don't know if this data is real as I look at it. It is coming from realtor.com, so they are getting some information from somewhere. But yet, this is the only reason why I want to pull this up. This is important when we're going through and we are having conversations with our sellers. You're going to the dining room table. What do we know? We know that there's more inventory on the market than there has been since pre-2019. 2019 is an important date because 2019 we consider a normal market. The market broke in 2020. We all lived through. You all know what happened. And it's been weird ever since for different reasons. 2019 is a normal market. We have more active listings on the market now than we did on a normal market back in 2019. So when we are looking at that, what gets interesting is we're thinking that homes are hitting the market and they're sitting for way longer. We're sitting in a buyer's market length of time at this point. And so what is happening is home comes on the market and another home comes on the market and another home comes on the market in the same neighborhood. Well, home A, home B have been sitting, and now home C has a fresh new listing. Home C is probably a lesser price than both A and B. Well, now what does A and B have to do? They have two options. Well, they have three. They can let their home sit and say, oh no, I'm going to get my price, which they very well could. They can lower their price to get below home C to make their home more attractive than the brand new house. Or they can take their home off the market because they're like, well, I can't win. There's two homes that are more attractive than mine because they're at a lower price. And I'm not going to go any lower because I believe my home is worth X. So I brought that up just to have that conversation. I don't know if this is real or not, but I thought it was interesting. So let's go through and let's look at what Logan Motoshami has to say. Firstly, purchase application data, 22-week growth streak, guys. If you didn't hear anything on this call, I do want you to hear this. There are buyers raising their hands that are talking to lenders to figure out how much purchase power they have. And do you know any of these people and have they reached out to you? Because here's the deal, guys. If we look at this and let's just go look at the chart, here we are. 2025 is kind of stayed flat, but it is well over 2024. Cool. Interest rates are high. Home prices are high. But guess what? We have more homes than we have ever had on the market in recent history. And with that, we have more buyers figuring out what their purchase power is. And so it is up to you guys to go out and figure out who are your motivated buyers, because we have so much inventory. We have so much negotiation powers, more so than we've ever had in the history of real estate, because of the new rules and the new laws that are in effect. Guys like you guys are set up for success right now. And so while we're in these summer months and you're going to these barbecues and you're hanging out with friends and nights out on the patio, what are you doing to find yourself in real estate conversations, to be the real estate economist of choice, to undercut, to pull back the layers of your buyer's motivations? Because this tells me it doesn't matter what the prices are. Your people have gone to a point to where they're like, okay, cool. Interest rates are what they are, and I'm okay with that. Now I'm just waiting for the right house. Are you that real estate economist of choice? Because here's the deal. What do we also know? In a different article not up, we do know that Zillow is no longer publishing every house on the MLS. They're being more restrictive. And so what does that mean in my scripting? Is I'm going through, I'm saying, well, hey, how are you getting the most up-to-date information on houses hitting the market? And they're going to say Zillow. Well, actually, Zillow is actually holding back a lot of listings right now. And if there are brokerages that are not publishing the information the way that Zillow expects them to, Zillow says they're not going to actually publish that information whatsoever. But yet I, as a real estate agent, hold the keys to every house in the MLS, and I can get you the most up-to-date information. As soon as the home hits the MLS, I can have it in your inbox. Would you find value in that? And then, guys, you have visibility into everything that they're touching. Guys, this is huge. Purchase application data is still at a high right now, and you need to be in front of as many people as possible. We're not going to talk about yield. We're not going to talk about the treasury. But here's what we do need to know. National single family new listings hitting the market. It has come down a little bit, but this is seasonality. Look, it goes down every time, this time of year, every year. So this isn't new. This isn't something to be like, oh my God, what's happening? Guys, you're in a very seasonal industry. People are on vacation. They're wrapping up stuff. They're getting those last minute deals out with their kids before their kids go back out to school. I think I heard what next week kids go back to school, 2 weeks. Like, beginning of August, like we're almost there. And so we do need to uncover these motivations. Weekly pending sales. Here we are. Again, we see it drop off right now. This is nothing new. Total pending sales. Here we are. We did see a little bit of a blip, but we typically start seeing it decline right now. Housing inventory. We have 31% more homes right now than we did last year. And we're trending higher and higher. What's interesting about this, guys, is while we're looking at how much inventory is available, what we also have to keep in mind is this. Our population is way bigger than it was in 2019. Now, I don't have those exact figures in front of me right now, but we do know is what happens. People get married, people have babies, babies grow up, they get married, they have babies, and the cycle just goes on and on and on. And what do all those people need? Shelter. One of our basic human needs is shelter. And so while we can be like, okay, well, it's 31% more now than it was last year, and obviously over these previous years, but not as high as it was in 2019, there's still a bigger gap now than there was in 2019 because there's more of a population here. All right. So as we're going through and we're having these conversations and being the real estate economist of choice, and we're figuring out what those motivations are, this is what I would tell you guys. While we talk about we're in a seasonal market, a seasonal industry, even more market in Colorado because of just our weather, is that we have to think about this. Most of our consumers are not basing everything that they do off of weather right now. We used to talk about real estate agents going to sleep as jack-o'-lanterns and waking up as Easter bunnies because their clients just went dormant, and so did they, and they started taking vacations. But here's the deal. People are now being motivated by what the rate is, and we saw that they're getting locked in. They're talking to their lenders, and then what are they doing? They're waiting for the perfect house. Well, here's the deal. We don't know when the perfect house is going to show up. It could show up next month, the month after that, but yet we don't know. Throw seasonality out the window. Yes, we're in a seasonal market, but there's going to be buyers out there that are just waiting. They're patiently waiting. They're sitting on the fence. They've already talked to the lender. They already know what they're getting qualified for. Now they're waiting for the house that fits their needs to pop up because they feel like the cost of money is so high that it's got to be the right house. What are you doing to make sure that you are in emotional proximity to that person when they are looking to transact business and pull the trigger on that home? Your price cut percentage, guys, we're at 40%. We know that historically speaking, 1/3 of all homes have taken a price cut every year, and yet we're sitting at 40% right now. Why? More inventory. The only way to make your house look better to the consumer when there's other houses that are in the neighborhood is to cut your home price. We get this. This isn't anything crazy. We already talked about the jobless claims, but I do want to end here. Let's look at the interest rates. Guys, this is 1 month worth of time. And guess what? I like this. I like that this does not look like a roller coaster. This looks like the United States of America, to where I could pretty much figure out that if I were to put my house on the market today, and if it took 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, that I could probably guesstimate where the interest rate is. And this is what gives people certainty. And we do know that most sellers become buyers, and that's the whole reason for this. Guys, like this is good. Like this is staying pretty flat, generally pretty flat. And so as we're going through, and we know that we have home sellers in Colorado that have untapped equity, and we understand that the equity, if they were to go through and sell their house, there might be some tax some taxes that might get taken out that might be punitive to them. And so figuring out what the loan products that are available from our vendor partners so that they can maybe tap that equity and not take the big tax burden that they would have, and then figure out what their goals are over the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, and to be that real estate economist of choice, to be able to give them that information, guys. That is where we're going to win. We just need to be in front of as many people as possible so that when they do raise their hand after they've already talked to the lender, which we've seen that people are already talking to the lender, that they're thinking of us to help them get across the finish line.